like to call meeting to order. Can we stand up and have pledge allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
Here.
Mrs. Cotterman.
Here.
Mr. Mosier.
Here.
Miss Amy Walker.
Here.
Mr. Wigton.
Here.
And can I get a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I'd also like to make a recommendation that we use item N2, the David Conley presentation, and move that to the professional development room upstairs so that it's easier to see what he has to present.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. And approval of previous meeting, accept a motion for that.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. Item E, presentation of certificates. Mr. Conway.
Okay, can I have Ms. Tracy Burden and Ms. Laura Phillips come down? So I have the honor of talking about both of these ladies as they get ready to embark on their retirement. 15 years I've had the opportunity to work with both of them. And when we were deciding, my family was deciding where did we want to live, it was what type of school system did we want our kids to go to. And after working with teachers like this, we decided we wanted to build a home in Madison. And I think these two teachers are great representatives of why that is. Speaking specifically of Tracy, I got the opportunity to see her and talk about her at the NHS Assembly, but I have not seen someone who lives the 4 pillars of NHS like Tracy Burden does, what she does for her students. And not just in a leadership role with our students, but also with our faculty. She is the chair of our math department and has been the driving force there as we've reconfigured our math curriculum to try to improve our state test scores. She is a friend and someone that I absolutely love, and I'm so thankful to have the opportunity to work with her. So we'll start by honoring Ms. Tracy Burden. And to continue glowing remarks, also had an opportunity to work with Ms. Laura Phillips, and she has been the most caring, understanding, compassionate teacher that I've ever seen. And she's been the backbone of our foreign language department for a long time. She has mentored many foreign language teachers as they've come across, and they have then gone on to be foreign language teachers themselves because of the influence of Mrs. Phillips. And having had Sydney in school this year and seeing that, it was a joy to see not only one of our retiring teachers, but going out with her daughter as the valedictorian. So can't be more happy for her and proud of her. Wish her the very best on a well-deserved retirement. Laura Phillips.
Thank you. And then recognition of visitors or in visitors' comments. Come on up. Please identify yourself, give your address, and you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
My name is Betty Sackman. I live at 1639 Englewood Drive here in the Madison community. I'm here to speak tonight on behalf of my daughter and Eagle Scout Madison Sackman, a senior at Madison Comprehensive High School, along with her fellow Eagle Scouts from Scout Troop 138, Andrew Parrish, Landon Harvey, and Zachary Sander Winters. May 17, I was made aware that during the commencement ceremony graduation class of 2025 that the students will only be allowed to wear the National Honor Society cord or cords from military branches that are enlisted. This was the first time I've heard of any restrictions, and I'm a very active parent, read all emails and final form notices that come through. I went to the handbook and senior page to see if there was any policy in place that stated this, and I found nothing. I quickly reached out to Mr. Conway, he confirmed this restriction. I informed Mr. Conway that my daughter wanted to wear her Eagle cord as she has earned her Eagle Scout rank December of 2024. Other schools in the surrounding area not only allow these cords, but they also make sure their graduating Eagle Scouts are supplied with these cords to be worn. I was still met with a firm, this is how it is, and they will let me know if this changes. The Eagle Scout rank is a significant accomplishment that can provide a strong foundation for future success in college, business, and other areas in life. It emphasizes leadership, development, making a difference in the community, promoting a sense of civic responsibility and commitment to service. Eagle Scouts may receive benefits such as scholarships, priority consideration for college admissions, and recognition in the United States military, where an Eagle Scout may be advanced to E2 upon graduation from basic training. An Eagle Scout averages over 1,000 hours of community service throughout their scouting career. Scout Troop 138 is a proud part of the Madison community and will often find us serving whenever we can, from helping with flag ceremonies to repairing community pools, trail maintenance, and feeding the homeless, building pavilions, and building, and so much more. This type of commitment often flows over into their school life. You will find them in leadership roles within the school, stepping up, volunteering to do more. These fine young people of Scout Troop 138 are exceptional. We are asking that the school administration and board review their current stance on graduation cords to implement an approval process for graduating students so these Eagle Scouts can proudly wear a symbol of their hard work and dedication in scouting as they walk across the stage and receive their diploma. I may be biased, but I think the school administration and board members would be proud to share this school that a student from their school and community has earned the rank of Eagle Scout, an achievement that will follow them no matter where life takes them. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other visitors for comments? Got one more? Please identify yourself and your address.
I'm Charles Sackman, 1639 Englewood Drive. Come before you as Scoutmaster for Troop 138. Did not perform any type of a speech or bother writing it down. Last time I gave a speech so pointed, it got erased from all annals of recording here at Madison. We had a fluke. So I'm gonna speak from the heart and start mentioning some names. There's Matthew Failer, noted musher in the Iditarod. There's Billy Link, Chief Procurement Officer for Walmart Industries. Senator Sherrod Brown, former Mayor Tim Zeker. These are all notable Eagles from the Mansfield area. On the grand stage, rest of life, you guys might know Mike Rowe of Dirty Jobs fame. Neil Armstrong, who's been to the moon. All Eagles, we build the leaders of leaders. So they're not getting a chance to be able to have their voices heard. I've been with these youth for at least 15 years in this area. And the reason why I joined is because during that time I was working in a prison, and I hear the same thing over and over again when you ask what they did to get there. Their answer was always, I'm not here for being a Boy Scout. Which means what we do is the antithesis of being in prison. It means that we are practicing good citizenship. We are doing things in the community. We're out there building pavilions where the homeless are served daily, and we're offering meals here in Mansfield to do better things. These kids are doing this in 4th grade and beyond, joining me and helping us do other things. So I'm not here for myself, but I'm here for them and to have their voices heard. So one little cord that hangs on them, that they can look around to all the other military enlistees and feel a little bit better about themselves because they know going in, that military enlistee will be the boss of the ones around them because they put in their time and they did their work, starting as low as 4th grade. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Any other visitor like to make a comment? If not, Mr. Conway, Mr. Grove? Mr. Grove?
Good evening. I have Jocelyn Barley here with us this evening. I would like to recognize Jocelyn and her accomplishments. You are looking at our state champion in Skills USA of the prepared speech. Jocelyn will get to go on to represent Madison and our Skills USA chapter in Atlanta, Georgia, coming up here in June. So I just wanted to present her with this certificate of achievement and to recognize all of the hard work and dedication that she has put into her speech coming up soon. So, Joshua.
All right. Any other visitors or comments? Seeing none. Item G, Administrative Committee reports. Legislative,
No report.
Athletic Board and Control,
We haven't met.
haven't met.
No.
Student Representative comments.
Hello, for those of you who do not know me, my name is Elise Huggins and I am this year's Student Council President, and today will be my last meeting with you all as I graduate next week. So today with me, I have our new Student Council officers that are going to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Courtney Cyrus, and I will be your new Student Council President for the next school year.
Hi, my name is Grace Spielman. I'll be your new Vice President for Student Council.
Hello, my name is Timothy Ellis. I'm going to be the secretary for next school year on Student Council.
And not with us is Libby Bekaleski, but she is our treasurer. Okay. To start things off, spring break was much needed and relaxing. We are ready to get to the finish line of this school year and get ready for summer. Softball has been outstanding and won the OCC conference. They are still going with tournaments starting on Thursday against Ashland. And baseball just ended their season yesterday with a great season and lots of memories.
Boys tennis placed 4th in OCCs and had a killer season. Track started districts yesterday, but it got postponed and will start tomorrow. I know for a fact our team will go strong and far. Prom was very successful with Emily Brandt and Nick Grimes winning prom king and queen.
The recent PBIS event was rewarding for students and celebrated with food trucks, kickball, cornhole, spike ball, and more. State testing is now complete and took a lot of stress off of students and teachers. It went very well and everyone is eager to get their scores. NHS, National Honor Society, had their blood drive, which is more than successful. Thank you. They collected around 284 units of blood, which is enough to save over 600 lives.
Thank you. I'll finish it off today. Alrighty. So over spring break, Leah Thomas and we competed in the FCCLA, which is the Family Career and Community Leaders of America state competition in Columbus. We both received gold ratings, but unfortunately will not be going to nationals. Choir and band finished their final concerts and had a great time and performance. Additionally, band went to Cedar Point to perform and choir went to Chicago to perform. They were both very successful and are ready for their challenges next year. Last night was the Senior Recognition Awards ceremony where students were rewarded scholarships, awards, and encouraging words. I can say for myself, I am very thankful and grateful for all I was awarded last night. This morning was a school assembly, which students got awards such as their academic letters, academic awards, and more. The seniors' last day is this Friday, and we will walk through the halls and say our last goodbyes as Madison students and seniors. The seniors' breakfast is on Tuesday, which will be followed by graduation practice, getting ready for our big day. For the first time ever, we are hoping to have the seniors walk at the elementary halls in our caps and gowns for the students to see and experience what will come shortly. Lastly, graduation will take place on June 1st, where we will complete the goal we started many years ago, walking across the stage. Only this time it's extra special because we will be the 100th class of Madison Comprehensive High School. I am beyond thankful that I was chosen to take the role of Student Council President this year. We share many laughs and exciting events and conversations. Thank you for being a part of my senior year and helping me grow as a person and as a speaker, even though I can't speak right now. I'm thankful I got to be here with you all and to share each month, or be here each month and share everything I could think of for each meeting. As I am sad I am moving up in life, leaving Madison behind, I hope to be a teacher for Madison in just a few short years. I love you all, and I know you guys will be in good hands with our new student council officers. Have a great summer.
Facilities. Thank you. Student achievements.
Okay, at Eastview, they're getting ready for the end-of-year carnival and growth celebration. They're proud of the average growth in iReady reading was 128%, and iReady math was 117%. Test scores just came back, and they're beyond proud of those scores as well. In third grade math, 79% of the students were proficient, with our average score being a 739. In third grade ELA, 85% of our students were proficient, with our average score being a 734. In fourth grade ELA, 71% of the students were proficient, with 725 being the average score. In fourth grade math, 80% of the students were proficient, with their average score being a 740. A huge thank you to teachers and staff who work so hard to ensure students are prepared. At Mifflin, end-of-year traditions are in full swing as the school year is coming to a close. They hosted their annual literacy night for the Adventures of a South Pole Pig, where students and their families participated in a transformed Mifflin where a barn and Antarctic decorated the school. Matt Failer, a musher from the area who participated in the Iditarod, spoke to students while visiting his home. Students participated in a Jeopardy tournament as well as Mifflin's annual Trivia Bowl. This week, students will have their fourth quarter leadership celebration for PBIS with a students versus staff kickball game. Preliminary scores for the math achievement on the Ohio State test in math also show 85% of students proficient or higher in third grade and 95% of students proficient or higher in fourth grade. At Madison South, 80% of our fourth graders were proficient or higher on this year's state math test. This is above the state average. Congratulations to the students and staff. For the middle school, the 8th grade students went on the DC trip and had a great time learning about the nation's capital. Math state test scores have begun to close the gap with two of our grade levels being higher than the state average. Our PTO wrote and received a $1,000 grant for the middle school library. At the high school, on Tuesday, May 6th, they held their annual Madison Academic Achievement Recognition Program. The top 30 students from 2025 recognized a Madison educator that had a significant impact on them. Special thanks to Michelle Dillon for putting together such a wonderful, emotional program. The National Honor Society organized another community blood drive in honor of London Hamilton on May 8th. They again exceeded all of their goals. They collected 138 units, which has the possibility of saving 414 lives. A special thanks to Mrs. Burden for taking the lead for such a wonderful event. NHS later held their special recognition program on May 14th. The Senior Awards program was held last night, May 20th. Many students were recognized and awarded scholarships towards post-secondary education. State testing has been completed for the year. They're currently analyzing preliminary results and will have a detailed report during our Board of Education presentation in September. On May 6th, Brianna Studer was honored as Madison's winner of the Rotary McGowan Courage Award. She was recognized along with students from other area high schools at a luncheon at Kingwood Center. Bree was nominated by Mr. Craig Green and Mrs. Mary Myers. And lastly, at the Career Center, they will be celebrating all of their students' success for the 24-25 school year, and they'd like to invite everyone to attend the upcoming graduation ceremony on Friday, June 13th in the middle school auditoria. The ceremony begins at 7 p.m.
Anything else? All right, thank you. Board policy
No report.
and superintendent's update.
So we're winding down here. We've got 5 days of school left, 2 days for seniors. And as we wind down, I'd like to publicly thank everybody within the school district for a great year. This being the 100th year of Madison schools. So that includes our students, their families, our teachers, our non-teaching staff, as well as the administration and you as board members. It's been a great year and very rewarding. A couple events that recently took place were very successful. Last Thursday, as some of you were there, we had our elementary Olympics, and I'd just like to take a moment to publicly thank Mr. Gordon for organizing that. He does a great job, and that was well run, well attended, and it was a very nice night for our community. And would also like to thank our elementary principals and our elementary phys ed teachers for all of their hard work on that event. And then Saturday, we had our 100 Years Carnival here at the middle school, and that event went off very well, and we had pretty good attendance. We were pretty happy with the outcome of that, considering the weather wasn't great, but that went very well, and I'd also like to do some public thank yous for that. Mr. Nelson, Mrs. Pluck, Mr. Gibson, and Mrs. Burden worked on that and put that together, and had to switch gears Friday night. They had inflatables all set to come, and the company that was bringing the inflatables, due to the high winds forecasted, said they weren't going to bring it. Then there was discussion as to whether we would go ahead and get those and put them inside. The superintendent made the poor decision of not going forward with that. And then Saturday morning, they pushed me a little bit harder, and so we did bring the inflatables in and have them in the auxiliary gym, and that worked out great. So thank you to Mr. Nelson and Mrs. Pluck and Mr. Gibson and Mrs. Burden for their hard work on organizing that, and thank you to all of our principals who went in the dunk tank. That was a very, very popular event Saturday. There was a line for that pretty much the whole time, and so I'm not sure what that says about our principals, but I think a lot of those participants were very happy to send them into the water. So thank you to all of those people for all of their work on the carnival. And then we've got graduation, as you all know, coming up a week from Sunday, right here at 2 o'clock. And lastly, I have placed in your packets several documents related to the turf project, which is not on the agenda tonight. Several of those things were finalized in the last few days. There's been a lot of work on that, and so those documents kind of got finalized in the last couple of days. So my anticipation is when we schedule a date with Mr. Conley in his presentation later, that we would schedule a special board meeting with 3 items related to that on it as well. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Presentations, Mrs. Neron and Mr. McVicker.
Mr. Stump will be joining them. He will be doing his part with the gifted. He'll have a gifted update.
Good evening. I provided all of you with a handout of my side of the report, just dealing with mainly professional development and curriculum and instruction. Just some highlights under the professional development. One thing that we accomplished this year, we had a Read Ohio grant here at the middle school, which allowed for a literacy coach to come in 2 days a week and work with our teachers on adolescent literacy and also their MTSS programs. You'll see I gave you a brief description of what we did in August, October, February PD. And then we also had a Calamity Day PD. That was a makeup day that we provided for teachers to do at in their homes. So we got that all, and I think everybody did a really nice job with that. They had to complete a form of what they did that day. And then the biggest thing, we implemented Wonders for our K through 5 ELA curriculum, and we had continued PD on that throughout the school year. The biggest initiative we were working on was our Science of Reading professional development. All teachers and administrators had to complete Science of Reading. They are compensated for that by the state. Just alone, the state had put out over $200,000 in reimbursements just to our district alone. They were doing that statewide. Currently, 95% of our staff are completed with that professional development, and that is due June 30th. They have to have that completed. Just some things we're looking forward to next school year for PD. We're starting to put out the new Madison app through Aptigee, so we'll have some Thrill Share PD. Also, our IEPs and WEPs, where we write those through Progress Book. We're going to a new program called Same Goal, so that is something that all staff will need to be trained on as well. And then just looking under curriculum and instruction, some of the big things that we conquered this year with our K through 2, we were implementing foundations as well as Wonders. So we were trying to bridge those two together. So we had a lot of work sessions on getting that completed and ready to move forward into next year. Currently, just working with teachers on their resources and what they need for the next school year. And just monitoring the high quality instructional materials. So that Wonders curriculum that we did implement was part of a high qualities instructional materials mandate by the state. They're also mandating what interventions we can use. So we're just making sure we're compliant in all areas. Also, we did a purchase for the Madison South preschool that also fell under that. They had to have the high quality instructional materials as well. And just a couple other things. We had 54 individuals who are temporary substitutes, so those are our non-bachelors. So quite a few of those are still going strong and helping us out here in the district. The dyslexia screening and at-risk screening is still happening. We're continuing to follow that with best practices. And that's really all in my area. There's a couple more bullet points, but I'll let you read through those, and just thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McVicker.
Yes, sir. Good evening. I've also provided a pack to you, and I'll just highlight a few things in there. Within school improvement is we're into the first full year of our Ed Steps process. And what that is just taking a more formal, more critical look at the data and the information that we receive through test scores, through various sources, and trying to make good decisions of how we're going to use any funds that we have. And I put in what I shared with you, one example, and Renee alluded to a little bit to that, of the Science of Reading program. We identified a concern. We're starting to put our efforts, our time into that, and now we're starting to see some of the results from that. And now we're tweaking those things as we move forward. Instead of starting with a whole new process, we've put in a plan in place, and now we're seeing how we progress with that. And that will start to expand into other areas as we continue into the Ed Steps program. Second item is in the heading of assessments, and I won't read through all the numbers that I've provided, but I do want to share with you the ACT scores, and in parentheses you'll see a comparison of where we were last year with some of those numbers. While we did not have any perfect scores in any of the areas of the ACT, we had students that scored very well, and you'll also see that overall our averages have increased, have moved up. Also in that section under the high schools, I do want to highlight, and I know Laura Phillips was here, Laura approached us about pushing for, and really was the driving force, between with the AAPPL assessment, and that is assessment of performance of proficiency in foreign languages. In our case, it would be with Spanish. But it did give the students an opportunity to take a different test in a different language, and if they would score well enough, they would earn a bilingual seal that could go on their diploma. This being the first year, none of us knew exactly what to expect, but hopefully it's something that now we've done it the first time. As we move forward, we'll continue to prepare students for those and give them the best opportunity. But looking back at it, I think it was a very good experience for our students. It was a test setting a little bit differently. They had to record themselves, they had to listen, and they had to write in a foreign language, and that's something that they typically don't see in a standardized test. Moving on to federal programs, and again, I'm not going to read through all of those, but in parentheses after each one, you see the amount of money that Madison received in those federal programs, and then the percentages that we broke those out in order to meet our needs, but also to take some of the burden off of our general fund. Depending on the needs of the students, especially in Title I and also in IDEA, there were additional supports and supplies that were purchased for those areas, and one of them, for example, is the parent engagement evening and events that we have in the 3 elementary buildings. And I think they were very successful. The feedback that we received have been very positive. But I've included within the Title I then the number of students that we were impacted through our Title I services. Federal grants, the ARP Homeless Grant is concluded. We're done with it. We will not receive no more funds with that, but it did. We were able to provide some supports for families, but we also were able to provide some food and clothing, personal hygiene types things in each of our buildings. There now is a food closet, clothing closet available in the buildings for those students that may have those needs or the families that have those needs. Mentioned that there were 31 students, families identified within Madison as homeless. We reached out to those students, and through not only the efforts of the ARP Homeless, but also Mary Madison, I think we had an impact on those families in a very positive way. And I will not mention the last one because I don't want to jinx us, just as I didn't last year. So if you have any questions for me, please ask. On the subsequent pages are also the preliminaries. You've heard we've got some of our preliminary test scores back, and I try to give a historical perspective on those for the last 4 years, and I'll continue to include those over time. One thing that I do want to point out as you look at those, the way that they calculate our scores for our district report card, part of it's based on the amount of students that were able to move from basic to proficient to accomplished and advanced. And when we do the math for those and they calculate that, you get a higher multiplying factor the higher those students score. So one of the things that we look at as a district, and I mentioned with our Ed Steps process, is moving those students from the proficient and accomplished level into the advanced level. And if you look through and compare our scores from one year to the next, in several places you'll see improvement in those percentages. So that means that those are students that the factor that we're multiplying by is much larger and much greater, and we have a bigger impact on what those scores are. By no means are we resting on these. We want to continue pushing those students and identifying where those areas are that we need to continue the improvement. But some of the efforts have been put in place through the curriculum, through professional development. We're seeing an impact. We're seeing those students moving. So that's what we want to do, and we want to continue doing that. So that's an explanation of the last 4 pages. You'll see ELA, math, science, and social studies scores over the last several years. We will break those down even further a little later in the summer. We'll provide more information on what we have once we break them down into the sub-scores and see what kind of impact we may have on those students. So now, are there any questions? Thank you. And any time I have left, I've now given to Mr. Stone.
Don't give me
Mr.
more
Stone,
time.
your turn.
Mr. McVicker is always quite the gentleman. So, good evening, board. Just want to give you a quick update on gifted education and what that's looked like this year. We have some exciting new developments that I wanted to share, and I think hearing the enthusiasm of both our students and our teachers, I think that we're headed in the right direction. The first thing that I wanted to show you is just an analysis of our data. And if you look at the total number of written education plans, that's where we make the goal, that's where we set what the student's going to work on. This year, we've had 306 documents for written education plans. That's an increase of 8.5%. So that's an increase of identification of 8.5% of students in the district that are now identified as gifted in one or more areas. So that number alone tells me that what we're doing is great, and we are recognizing these kids for what they truly deserve. And so that brought a lot of happiness to me. If you look at the written acceleration plans, that has actually fallen by 45%. And you're like, hang on a second. Why are there only 134, and why did that fall so badly? It's because we discovered that you don't need to write a WAP every single year. If a student was given a WAP in math in compacted math 6, they are set for math until they graduate. They don't need a new one every single year. So teachers are actually doing way too much work. And so we're able to take that off their plate. And as long as they have that for that subject area, they are set until they graduate. So that's why that number has fallen, and that is less work for teachers. So we don't want to give them work they don't have to do. And then if you notice the total number of goals, that is 475. Again, just because we have 360 written education plans, a student can have multiple goals. We have some students in this district with 5 goals because they were identified in 5 areas. That's a lot. So, but the total number of goals, we did increase from last year by 5.7%. So again, we are trending upwards in gifted education. The state wants to see that. So we're very proud of what we've done there and what we've accomplished. A legal update. We were told at the end of last year that for this current school year, the laws would be changing for gifted. Those rules came out last week. So this is a very fresh legal update that will then go into effect next school year. And here are just some of the highlights that I took from the document. WEPs must include the attempt of parent input. That is something you currently see on an IEP. Moving forward, we have to do something in this district to make sure we're at least trying to solicit that parent feedback. The second thing is that they must be aligned to Ohio's learning standards. The trick with that is we have to know where kids are at. If I have a gifted 4th grader in math, they might not need 4th grade math standards. They probably have mastered them already. So it's very important that we know which set of standards, what grade level standards do we need to really focus on every single student that's identified as gifted so they're getting what they need. So they're actually learning and not just reiterating what they already know. And then finally for the WEP, it has to include how the WEP matches student strengths and their educational needs. That is a box that is currently on the WEP that has been optional. Next year, it's no longer optional. Teachers will have to write in the student strengths, and they'll have to match that to how they're integrating those strengths into the WEP themselves. That will be probably one of the highlights of the PD that I will be offering in August for the staff, so they will be well prepared to hit the ground running once they meet their new students and can start writing their WEPs. For identification, the one big change was creative thinking is now optional. We do not have to assess for creative thinking, but my thought process is why not? The assessment itself is very cost effective, it's not expensive to purchase, and it's not time consuming. To qualify for creative thinking, you have to have a certain score on the COGAT, which is a rough measurement of an IQ. They have to take that. So then why not just add a 10-question questionnaire, a survey, to see if they qualify for creative thinking? Again, it's not that costly to the district either. We can use our gifted funding and still identify kids for creative thinking. Even though it's optional, we're going to do it. I think kids deserve that. And then finally, for servicing, this is probably the biggest change moving forward, is that students next year must be clustered in groups of 3 or more that are identified in the same area. You can't have one outlying student that's gifted in a class by herself. That's not okay. If they're the only one identified in that grade level, then there should be a waiver in place that I will fill out and submit to the state. But other than that, we should be able to cluster those kids so they can work with each other. The teacher can really hit them as a group of students and target their instruction. So that's probably a big change. And then finally, this is the one we still need some clarification on. It's now going to be required for teachers that provide gifted education service, and that's the model we use at Madison. They have to participate with somebody that has their degree in curriculum and development and instruction. What does that look like? How often must they meet? We don't know yet. So I actually have a meeting set up with Mid-Ohio actually next week, and we're going to kind of compare our notes and see what's going on and how we all feel we should tackle that. The assessments really haven't changed from last year, so there's really nothing new to update there. Again, for reading and math, we use the iReady diagnostic in grades 2 through 8. Science and social studies, we use the Iowa assessments in grades 2 and 5. And superior cognitive and creative thinking is also grades 2 and 5. However, we do try to get those K1 students in there too for early identification for gifted. But really, there's no changes there. If you look at the breakdown of identification, you can see the number of students identified in every building, as well as the areas that they are identified. The one thing I want to point out to you is that performing arts, and yes, it is at a 0. This was the first year in a long time that we have attempted to have students identified in performing arts. We had 4 students try. Unfortunately, nobody qualified under the rubric, but we're going to still move forward and try to identify students in that performing arts category. Visual arts, last year it was 2, now we're up at 4. So we are making those slow gains for visual arts, and we hope to see that number continue to increase every year so we can really give our art students what they need. Professional development, Mr. Pierce and I had a conversation back at the end of last school year that we would offer something in-house that would satisfy that 60-hour requirement that teachers would need over the 4 years. And one way we decided to do that was for WEP writing, that would count for some of those hours, but in addition, we did have a book study this year where teachers, if they needed those hours, could opt into this book study through me, and we would spend, it was November through April, in this book and then responding to questions. We did have about 45 staff members participate in that book study to get their hours. We are also going to a gifted institute at the ESC of Central Ohio. That is in just a couple of weeks, June 4th, I believe. That one will satisfy all the hours needed for the school year, and this year they'll be learning about social emotional implications for gifted students. So I appreciate you guys listening to me babble about gifted. Know that it's extremely important to me, and I know it's important to you guys. So if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. I, approval of donations, accept a motion to accept the donations.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank, as we do every month, thank our those who donated to our district. Those are very valuable donations and very helpful to our district. So thank you to all those who have made donations this month.
Ms. Walker?
4.
Mr. Wigton?
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker?
4.
Mrs. Cotterman?
4.
Mr. Mosier?
4. Entertain a motion for the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
All right, first thing we're going to do is talk about the monthly financial report. I think.
Maybe.
It is not working. There we go, wrong button. Okay, first thing we'll do is talk about the revenues. So we're a little bit over 3%, almost 4% increase for this year, which is of growth in revenues, which that was expected. That's what was targeted, but that 4% really has to do with the levy that was passed in November of 2023. You know, the second collection of that was in 2024, which was August, which was FY 25. So if you see under the tax revenue, the $1.3 million increase year over year, that's what contributed to that almost 4% growth, which means next year we're not going to see 4% growth. I'll just let you know that now. That 4% was anticipated because of the levy coming in. Next thing is the expenditures. Expenditures increased higher than revenues, which that is common. You know, when you have averages, if you want to average 5% and something increases by 10, then something else is going to have to increase 0 to get to that 5% average. So, you know, I've talked extensively about health insurance, and health insurance is increasing exponentially. So if it increases 16%, we have to have something else decrease to get an average growth of 3 or 4%. So the big problem with our expenditures increasing month over month is the increase in health insurance. But even that being said, you know, I anticipated that, and we are on target and we are on track. So it's not like it's something that's new. It's not like it's the first time anybody's been hearing this, but our expenditures are on track and they're increasing, and it's increasing because of insurance. But those are the same things I put in. I haven't changed those. And, you know, we're almost, well, we have according to by the time this came out, we had 2 months left to go, so we're 84% of the way through the year. And we're right on track with expenditures, and if you look, we're right on track with revenues. So that's where that is. Before I move on to the 5-year forecast, is there any questions on the monthly financial reports?
When you say on track, I think what you mean is for what you anticipated for the year.
That's correct? Exactly right. Okay, the budgets are set and the 5-year forecast is set and they match, okay? So when, at the beginning of the year, when we know what our anticipated expenditures are and we know what our anticipated revenue is, I track that. And you are completely correct, Mr. Peterson. When I say we are on track, that means that no anomalous occurrences happened, and we are pretty much where I anticipated we were going to be, or where we budgeted we were going to be. Even if our budgets were, you know, they were higher than what we would have liked them, we are where we are. I mean, it's nothing so crazy has happened to put us off track. So yes, you are right. Forecast. So the forecast is a one-page deal, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go over the assumptions, because the assumptions are really, they're what the numbers are based on, and if you don't understand the assumptions, then the numbers really don't mean anything. And the first thing I want to do is talk to you a little bit about the forecast, because there's been some misunderstanding about how much money the district has or where it is. The forecast is just the general fund, which is how we pay vast majority of salaries, benefits, utilities. That's how we operate. There are other funds, like the bond retirement fund, that have money in it, but that is specifically set aside to pay for this building, the bond payment on this building. Okay, it's like your house payment, only you pay it twice a year. There is the permanent improvement fund, which you'll see a transfer. Mr. Peterson talked about the turf. You know, the board has elected, we know that turf's going to have to be replaced every 11, 12 years. Rather than wait 11, 12 years and all of a sudden get hit, the board knew that, hey, we're going to have to put money back every year. So there's something there. That's what that transfer is. So that money has already been set aside. There's an 034 fund, which is maintenance. That's just for this building. The OFCC, which has partnered with the district to build this building, says you have to set aside so much money and it can only be used on certain maintenance items for this building. Can't use it on salaries, can't use it on benefits. The 300 fund, which is student athletics. When our community pays for tickets, that goes into the 300 fund, and that is where they pay officials. That's where they buy the helmets, the basketballs. That's not used for salaries and benefits or lighting. 200 fund, we have NHS students, and they talked about all the things they did. Well, they're basically self-funded. We're not using taxpayer money to do that. They have fundraisers, they have blood drives, they have events. That money goes into their 200 student activity fund, and that's what they use to support it. So none of that stuff is in this forecast. This is only general fund, which is taxpayer money, what we get from, well, taxpayer money and interest. That's why it's, when I give you that monthly report, there's just a few things, you know, local revenue, taxpayer revenue, and when it says other, that's things like interest, Medicaid, abatement payments, things like that. The next thing I'm going to point out, which is really important, is this is a snapshot. Okay, by the time this 5 years are up, we're going to have 2 biennium budgets. We're going to have a triennial update, which is property valuation changes. We're going to have another contract negotiation. There's 2 potential levy renewals in here. And I don't know if you guys have been keeping track of all the different pending legislation that's up there with regards to property taxes and 20 mil floors, any other legislation. I don't have a crystal ball to tell you what all those things are going to be. So the only thing I can do is take a snapshot of where we are right now, and that's where the assumptions come in. So when I talk about things like where I anticipate the funding going, that is a snapshot based on what I assume is going to happen. When I talk about the salaries, that's a snapshot of today based on an assumption, what I put in there, what's going to happen. Things can definitely change with negotiations and legislation. So the first thing I'm going to do, you know, I've done this before. Forecast is broken down into revenues and expenditures, two basic areas. The first one is the revenues, and 92% of it is either state, foundation, or local real estate taxes. So that is, since 92% of our money coming in is those, that's where our meat and potatoes is, that's where I'm going to focus. So I'm also going to talk a little bit about what's changed since November, what has changed with this year, and what's changed going out. And I'm not going to read this to you. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. You can read it. But honestly, since November, and even since 12 months ago, revenues are only about 1% different than what I had forecasted. So, you know, with real estate, I'm sorry, we're going to start with real estate. Real estate's pretty stable. You know, there is still that decrease in 2028 and 2029 because those are levies that I can't put in there. But these didn't change a whole lot. The one change that did happen that I put in since November is we collected slightly less than what I anticipated. I'm 0.64%, less than 1% below. And that can be for 2 reasons. 1, delinquencies, you know, people not paying their taxes, and 2, there's a split. People pay half in the spring and half in the fall. Well, if you pay half in the fall, it goes on the next fiscal year. If you pay all of it in the spring, it goes on this fiscal year. So that split determines how much is in this fiscal year in collections and how much is next fiscal year. So when you have to judge that split and you have to judge the delinquencies, you know, if I'm within 1% of what I anticipated in November and within 1% of what I anticipated in last May, I think that's pretty good. The growth over the next couple of years is just basically on new construction and inside millage. And you'll notice in 2027 there is a decent chunk. It goes from 13.1 to 13.2, or I'm sorry, 13.1 to 13.3. That's because that's the year that triennial update will come in. I'm anticipating, just because it's historically trending, when there's a triennial update, valuations increase. When valuations increase, our inside millage increases. We're not at the 20 mil floor, so our overall millage won't, our overall collections won't increase because the millage will go down, but the inside mills will increase. So that's why that's in there. That didn't change a whole lot since November. Here's where the big changes happened, the state aid. So this year, I was pretty good. I was, you know, 0.6 below what was I anticipated in November, within 1%, and you know, I was within 0.5% of what I anticipated May of last year. So I think that's pretty good. But given what the legislation is right now, everybody that's talking about House Bill 96 and the governor's biennium budget, it would not be responsible to assume an increase. So that's where the major change came in. In November, we came off the OSBA conference, and during that conference, I was pretty confident. I was optimistic. I thought the Fair School Funding Plan would pass without any trouble. I thought in November, after listening to all those people present, I thought it not only would pass, I kind of figured that they would update the expenditures to 2024 expenditure levels, along with updating the valuations and income to 2024 expenditure levels. Since then, the governor's proposal came out. They updated the income. They said, okay, well, you know, the income went up to the 2024 levels, and they updated the valuation, but they kept the base cost, which is how much it costs to educate a kid, at 2022 levels. So that hurt us. And then the next thing, the House Bill 96 has come in, and it's just completely blown stuff up. So the biggest decrease in 26 and 27 is because I took this line and almost flattened it out. I put just a little bit of increase for casino and a little bit of increase in career tech funding, but I flattened it out. Now, historically, over the past 5 years, we've been getting a 3% increase in state aid. If we got just 2.75 over the next 2 years, you know, it'll put the bottom line back in the black. We wouldn't be we wouldn't have a complete cash deficit in 2027. So what I'm trying to say is, had the anticipation, had the assumptions now in May been the same as the assumptions were in November, we would still be in the black at the end of the 3 years. But I had changed my assumptions because a lot has changed legislatively since November. And it's just, like I said, it's not, it just wouldn't be fiscally responsible to project the historical trends given what is going on down at the state legislature. I'm hoping by the next forecast it's happy and glowing, but you never know. Here is an unanticipated change since the May forecast. If you remember, or November forecast, I'm sorry. If you remember last June, I had to do an advance, ask for an advance for a self-insurance fund, and that's because it was in the red, and you can't end the year with a negative balance. So I advanced you guys approved it, an advance, which is a loan, the self-insurance fund of $355,000. Well, I anticipated that loan being paid back this year because in January of 2024, increases in insurance were 8%, and in January 2025, increases were 16%, which was double. There's no rational reason why the self-insurance fund would not have recovered enough to pay that back. except it didn't. It's actually gotten worse because our health insurance costs, because we have what's $150,000 stop loss, everything up to $150,000 we pay for. Okay, so it's just been, it's been going up and up and up, and it's crushing us. So the one change in revenues is in November, I anticipated a $355,000 more in revenue because I had anticipated that advance coming back in this year. I'm not doing that this year. I'm hoping with the 16% last January, and if we have another huge one this January, it gives the self-insurance fund enough money to pay the general fund back this next year. So that was the change there. That being said, overall in revenues, you know, if you look what I can anticipate, you know, the taxes, state aid, the other things which are like homestead and rollback and our excess costs and Medicaid reimbursements, you know, I was within less than 0.5% off. I mean, 0.47, that's pretty accurate. If you take put the $350,000 out, which I anticipated, I'm still only 1.45% off. I'm still pretty close, but that really crushed us big time. That revenue, I really anticipated that return, that advance. Next thing, we're going to talk a little bit about expenditures. Expenditures, there's three things that make up the vast majority of them: salary, benefits, and purchase services. Well, it makes sense. We're in the service industry. You know, we pay teachers, we pay their for their benefits, and we have to pay for purchase services, those things that Mr. Stump was talking about and Ms. Neuron were talking about, the, you know, the testing and all the aids, and we have to pay for that. So as far as salaries go, since the November forecast, there have been negotiations settled. So that was a change. There have been reduction in forces for next year that I didn't have in November because I didn't know what they were going to be. So that is a change. STRS lowered to their maximum amount to 32 years instead of 33. So that was a change. So with all those changes coming in, FY 26, 27, 28, and 29 were lowered. However, this year, FY 25, I was within 0.5%. I mean, that makes sense. Those are knowns. With STRS increasing to 32 years or decreasing to 32 years from 33, you know, that added another couple people that are eligible to retire. So when you put those in, if you have somebody at the very highest level of the pay scale retiring, you anticipate you hire a newer teacher, which is at the lower end. You can talk about that savings. So that got baked in. All the reduction in forces that Mr. Peterson had to go through this year, those all got baked in. All the retirements, those wonderful people that were spoken about tonight, those got baked in. So those were things that I didn't know in November. I do know now, and that's why 26 through 29 changed on salaries. But other than that, I mean, we're pretty much on track. Health insurance, well, benefits. Benefits are just, they're a function of salaries. They're a percentage of salaries, with the exception of health insurance. I don't know if you're aware of this, but 96% of our classified staff, we pay more for a family health insurance plan than what they earn in a salary in a year. 96% of them. So that is how bad health insurance is hurting the district. It's crushing us. I don't know how many times I can say it. Mr. Peterson and I sat in on a Zoom call with the consortium to talk about joining consortium. We've had multiple insurance committee meetings to talk about different changes that we can make, try to implement. We are looking at it on a weekly, I wouldn't say daily, but we're looking at it on a weekly basis. We're trying to do everything we can. There are changes we can make, and there are things we can't do because our hands are tied, because it's, part of an agreement that we can only discuss every couple of years. That being said, I knew the 16% coming in January. I didn't change the increase over the next couple of years above 10, but I may have to in November. We'll see what happens between May and November with the self-funded plan. Since the increase, we did start getting better in the self-funded plan. We went from like 1.2 down to like less than 900,000 in the hole. So we were getting better and better and better. And then last month hit, and I have no idea what happened, except claims went up, obviously. I don't know, somebody got sick, something occurred, claims went up, and we're back up to 1.1 million. So far in May, claims are they're down a little bit lower than what they were last May. So I think that we're headed in the right direction, but it's just not where it should be. And this isn't something that's new either. We look back, Mom Carolyn, my assistant, and I look back, that self-insurance fund has been, well, in 2019 they took like what's called a premium moratorium, which means you take your reserves and you pay your premiums. Well, what that does is it lowers that self-funded balance and artificially boosts general fund. The reason they did it in 2019 is because that's when they refinanced the bonds. And when you refinance bonds, you want to be in the best financial position you can be in general fund to get the lowest bond rating, or highest bond rating, lowest interest rate, which means it saves the most money. But when they did that, it's just gone down and down and down ever since. So we should have had higher increases probably the past 5 or 6 years we've had 8% and 16%, but that just hasn't been enough. And who would have thought 16% isn't even enough to keep up? Purchase services, the only major change here, Mr. Peterson and I were discussing, I'll give him the credit for doing this. He was able to bring a couple people back into the district next year as staff. So instead of paying the Mid-Ohio Educational Service Center for their services, we just decided, why pay them? Just bring them back here. It has some positive financial implications, but it also has some implications other than financial that benefit the district when you have control over those employees. So that was the only change in purchase services, where it went down in 2026 compared to what it was in November. Now, I didn't say I was going to go over supplies and capital outlay because they're really only 4% of our expenditures, but I put it in here for 2 reasons. One, supplies is the one area that increased this year more than I anticipated, but it's because we've had a lot of things occur with regards to the facilities that we needed different supplies for. On a professional level, I think we've cut supplies and capital outlay too much, actually. It's to the point where we don't have enough. We've got to replace Chromebooks because, like I do, technology, as it increases, it goes from Windows 10 to Windows 11, it takes more memory. Things go bad. Just like that bulb a couple months ago went bad in the projector. The buildings are, the high school is 62 years old, 62. Eastview and South are both 60 years old. When you have buildings that are that old, and Mifflin's even older than that, it was built in 49. You got to have capital outlay and supplies, and by just cutting those so much, we're just scraping by the skin of our teeth, and we've had to cut them because of where our financial position is. It's difficult. And we don't have like a permanent improvement levy. Some districts have a permanent improvement levy that actually pays for the maintenance of the facilities. We pay for all this out of general fund. So when a boiler breaks, general fund's got to cover it. And let's face it, we can't operate. Fuel for buses is a supply. We got to have fuel for buses. We got to have paper. You got to have that kind of stuff. And when you have a fleet of 23 buses, if you only replace one a year, that means you got a bus that's 23 years old. Talked to Mike Yost, and he said we have buses that qualify for historic plates. So, I mean, when you can't build those into a forecast because you've had to make things so razor thin, and it's kind of dangerous. So, unanticipated change was another advance out. The self-insurance fund is not going to be recovered. I'm going to have to advance another. I put $950,000. I hope that's enough. That's a loan to be able to end the fiscal year in the black for the self-insurance fund. If that self-insurance fund would have recovered like I anticipated between the advance in not getting repaid and this advance out, that's $1.3 million. That would have put us with our expenditures not exceeding our revenues. Our revenues, we would have been in the red this year, and we would have been surplus, not deficit spending, had that not happened with that self-insurance fund. So that's where we're at, and that's why I had to put this in.
So, Mr. Stevens,
yeah,
if I understand this correctly, the self-insurance fund owes the general fund, or will owe, after those advances, $1.3 million.
That is exactly correct. Now, what I'm going to do a little bit different this year that I didn't do last year, this year, I'm going to take, so we'll do the advance in June, so we end the fiscal year in the black. July, I'm going to have the board vote on returning the advance, so we'll just move all the money back in to the general fund, and I'll have a very, very, very negative fund balance in the self-insurance fund going through, so it at least will look right on the forecast for the year.
So what are our options on recovering in that self-insurance fund?
Keep increasing the premiums more than 16%, because obviously doubling it to 16% didn't do any good. So some of the things we looked at, like that coverage care management, that would save the self-insurance fund about $500,000 a year. So what that would do is it would help the balance in the self-insurance fund, okay? Which means we wouldn't have to take as much out of general fund and put it in there. Increasing our premium contributions, but like I said, we're spending, for a classified employee for a family plan, it's already $50,000 a year. So to increase it another, 15%, it's insane. So that's basically our option. I mean,
we'll have to do something.
Yeah, we do. You know as well as I do, we've talked about we've gone out to bid on stop loss. We've gone out to bid on our PPO carrier. We've gone out to bid on our fixed costs. We've talked to consortiums. We are looking and looking and looking at, I don't know what the silver bullet is. I mean, we're working with the broker. We're trying to figure it out, but it's, the health insurance is bankrupting the district, basically.
And as we increase premiums, that not only affects our contribution,
but affects
the
theirs.
Employees' contribution.
Yeah, because
as well.
the employee pays 10%. So if you're taking a $50,000 plan, they're paying $5,000 of it, 10%. We're paying the 45. If you have to increase that $10,000, they're paying 10% of that, $1,000, and we're paying $9,000. I want to say we, the district, is paying it. So yeah, it increases the employee's cost, and it increases the board's cost. And the thing is, if we could get some of these things like the continued care management implemented, it would save the employees money because they're saving on what they pay for drugs, and if it saves them money, it'll save us money. But getting it implemented, getting over that hurdle is a major step.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up. So, whoops, sorry. Back to the variance, if we look at the variance in expenditures just from November, 0.82%, I'm within 1% of what I said we were going to be. So that's relatively accurate. That $950,000 advance that I didn't anticipate killed the overall, though, because if you put that in, I'm 3% off. Still, that's 96.37% accurate. But regardless, that killed us. So here's what we can expect. Ohio Department of Education and Workforce is going to contact us because we will be in fiscal oversight. We have a negative fund balance in year 3, which means we're going to have to go through that whole thing we went through a couple Februaries ago again, where we're going to have to submit a written plan to the state. By November, this could be completely different depending on what the state legislature does, or it could be the same. I want to plan for the worst and hope for the best, but this is not like, I'm not putting this in here to be doom and gloom. I'm kind of trying to be as realistic as I can. So that's where we're at. Now, I know that number, that negative 4.6 million and the negative 10.54 million are huge. I cannot include any renewals of any levies, and I can't include anticipating any different levies coming in. So that's one reason those are so low. That's basically, like I said, I'm not going to just read it to you. And I told you we're going to be in fiscal oversight with ODEW. That's basically where we're at. So before I go on to the other transfers, which a transfer is not an advance. A transfer, once it's gone, it's gone. An advance is a loan, you get it back. This was a lot. Do you guys have some questions on the forecast or something else you'd like me to go over, or is there something other than trying to figure out how to fix the insurance problem that you'd like me to look at, or?
Where they at with the House bill about the property tax? Do you know where that's at? They got enough signatures to put on the ballot, or?
I don't know if they have enough signatures to go on the ballot yet, but it from what I just read 2 days ago, it looks like it is gaining steam and gaining progress. Here's what I'm going to, I'll answer you with that the same way I answered somebody else. In 97, I believe it was, DeRolf sued the state of Ohio over funding, and the state Supreme Court said the funding for the way the state funds education is unconstitutional. They then essentially said, we don't have jurisdiction to change it, so nothing got changed. If this does go through, and if it gets on the ballot and there's enough votes to try to eliminate property taxes, in the Constitution, the state still has to fund schools. They're going to have to figure it out somehow, whether that be with income tax or whether it be with a sales tax or how they want to do it. They're going to have to figure something out, because we have to have police, we have to have firemen, we have to have roads, and we have to have schools. And that's constitutional. I don't know how they're going to, if it gets put on the ballot, I have no idea how the state's going to.
But the ballot language says that as of January 1st of 2026, property taxes will not be collected. That's what that's what that ballot's going to say.
Yeah.
So it's going to be bam.
But if that happens, the state will have to do something. They'll have to do something, because, I mean, it's in the Constitution.
Well, they've already ignored it for a lot of other things. So
I will agree. Okay, I'll agree with you with that. So if it gets to that point, and obviously we're going to be in fiscal oversight, if it gets to that point, I guess we'll have to look for the state legislature and the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce to tell us how we're gonna get bailed out. So far, income taxes have not been touched. It's only property taxes. They haven't talked about income taxes. But, you know, I'll tell you what, if I had a crystal ball and could give you the answer, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be on a beach in Tahiti. I'm just being honest with you. I have no idea what's going to happen, and I don't think anybody does.
You'd be hitting the lottery, right?
I would be hitting the lottery, yes, exactly.
Donate to the schools, correct?
Yeah, yes, I would. I'd donate to you.
All right. Go.
Can we go, am I okay to go on?
Yeah.
So the next, number 3, the $25,000 transfer from general fund to adult ed, that has been done every year since I've been here. Adult ed is important to the district. Doesn't mean it has to be done. The board could choose not to do it, but they have chosen to do it, so that's put in there. And the same thing with the transfer from permanent improvement to the 003 turf replacement. You know, it would be silly to, knowing that we have to replace it, to not keep putting money back. So that's what that is. And just so you guys know, what Mr. Peterson talked about, you know, the district themselves are only a small portion of the turf replacement. A lot is coming from the athletic boosters. So, and some is coming from, quite a bit's coming from, when I said earlier, when I said there's a 300 athletic fund, when you know, for ticket sales and stuff like that, and it goes to buy uniforms. Well, our athletic directors also had the foresight to say, hey, we're going to have to put some money back. So he's got, I shouldn't say he, the athletic department has skin in the game too. So it's the athletic department, it's the district, and the boosters has a big chunk.
I'll just add to that. I had Mr. Neron do some research on what it costs us to maintain the grass, baseball and softball infields. And through his research, it was between $12,000 and $13,000 a year just to maintain the grass. So that's money we will save by not doing those things. And that's just on the baseball and softball fields, let alone what it would cost to maintain grass on the football field. So we're not spending a lot of money by doing that. Fortunately, we have a great booster club who is assuming a significant portion of those costs.
If there's no more discussion, you don't want to hear any more from me, mind if I call roll, or again?
Please.
Okay. Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Wickton.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. Item K, matters related to personnel. Entertain a motion to accept item K.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Mr. Wickton.
I am voting for, except I have to abstain on item E because of relative.
So you're abstaining on item E, but voting yes on everything else?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Mosier.
4. Just note that there is a Mosier in there, but that's no relation. Under 1 year, Margie Mosier, she's no relation.
Okay, okay,
Just want
cool.
to let you know, in case somebody. Item L, superintendent's business. Motion to accept superintendent's business.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Just a couple items that I'll provide discussion on. Item 13, which is the high school roofing project. Mr. Neron has kept the board up to date on that, and it is time for us to complete that project over the summer. And so we pay for the materials out of fiscal year 25 funds, and then the labor out of the FY26 funds. That particular area of the high school is the back corner closest to the baseball and softball fields, that portion of the building over the career tech labs on the back there. And then item 17, that is the Ramble Inn renovation project to meet ADA requirements, and the majority of that is bringing the restrooms and locker rooms up to ADA standards. A long overdue project there. And then numbers 18 and 19, those are the two administrative positions that we've brought back into the district from Mid-Ohio. And after I did some further review on that, it's come to my attention that our goal in that was to bring them back into the district, but not increase the cost to the district by doing that. We are going to have to do that a little bit. What I did find out is while our administrators get steps for each year or each so many years that increases their pay, our Mid-Ohio employees were not getting any steps like that. So I took that into consideration, and that's the reason for the increase, the slight increases for both of those positions. And that's all.
Okay. Mr. Wigton.
4.
Mrs. Cotterman.
4.
Miss Amy Walker.
4.
Mrs. Melissa Walker.
4.
Mr. Mosier.
4. Any other visitors' comments? Like anybody else like to make a comment? Seeing none, we'll go to President's business. Would you discuss?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Discuss number 1 down here. Apparently, there's a board policy. We weren't for sure if there's a policy out there or not, how many years it involved in a hiring administrator who retires and comes back rehired. And we found out it was 2. I would like to have a discussion amongst the board to increase that to 3, like the other contracts we have with the teachers union and the unclassified union, just for discussion purposes.
The other ones are 3? Because we have a teacher on the agenda that's a 1 year.
They are 3.
It says he...
No, the teacher's contract, like the teacher's contract that we just approved.
Oh.
Those in the unclassified.
But it's not a rehire.
No, the one is in the contract for them is 1. So.
That's what I thought.
This is really a discussion about individuals rather than a negotiated agreement.
Right. I think it's fine the way it is. I think 2
I do
is the number.
too.
What'd you
It's
say,
not-
Mary?
I think 2 is fine.
I like
Not
2
1,
as
it's not
well.
3, it's right in the
And in
middle.
checking with other area districts, they're pretty standard with 2 and recommend 2.
But there's no reason we couldn't increase it to 3 if we chose to do that.
We could do a maximum of 3, and then at the board's discretion, they could do 1, 2, or 3. It just gives you the freedom to go up to 3,
Yeah, I think,
minimal 1.
I think it reads not to exceed 3 years of
Yeah.
contract. So some
So
of
it
the
wouldn't mean you
contracts-
have to do it, it just gives you the freedom if the board wants to do it.
Do you
Just
want
a
a
thought.
motion for, are you looking for a motion for that?
Does the board policy have to be reviewed and recommended?
Well, there has to be 2 readings, so
Yeah.
this is just discussion tonight.
Yeah, just we'll have a
Okay,
discussion.
so this is just the discussion part.
Yep.
Think, right? Or do we need?
I think the idea of leaving it open to 1, 2, or 3 at the board's discretion would be the best way to go about that.
Not to exceed, yeah, okay. All right, any other discussion for item 1? All right, item 2 was recommended for Mr. Connolly's presentation to go up in the room up there. Where he's going to go up there and present his information to update us on the tax policies we've been working on. So with the meeting up there, anybody's more than welcome to come up, and then we'll conclude it up there also, correct? Or you want to come back here and conclude it?
No,
Conclude up there?
we can conclude the meeting up there, right?
I wouldn't know why not. If everybody that wants to stay joins us.
Yeah. Wait.
All right, well, if you, we're going to
Want to stay to the bitter end, you got to go upstairs. Otherwise, have a good evening.
Right.